Welcome back to another exciting episode. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful day on the show. So happy to have you guys here. I'm more than happy to be here. And once again, you guys know we only bring top guests to our show. And as always, I take out my time. I go out there to sort out for the best guests to bring for the show. And once again, today we have a very special guest. Today's guest is Rich Lewis, author, speaker, and coach, whose work centers on the performative practice of centering prayer. Since 2014, Rich has practiced centering prayer every day, discovering firsthand how silence and stillness can lead to deep inner healing, greater peace, and a more authentic relationship with God. Rich, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, so he's also the author of Sitting with God, A Journey to Your True Self Through Centering Prayer, the creator of the Silence Teaches, where here he shares weekly meditations, book reviews, and conversations on contemplative spirituality. Once again, Rich, we are so happy to have you on Hidden Secrets in Books.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so centering prayer. Rich, what is centering prayer? And how is it different from traditional prayer?
Sure. So, centering prayer, and I'll give you a quick history. So, centering prayer has been around since the early 1970s. It was created by actually three Trappist monks or three Catholic priests saw that the secular world had practices of silence and meditation, and they wanted something more for the I guess the Christian space. So they created the practice called centering prayer. It kind of spawned one of the Trappist monks, Father William Meninger, was reading a book called The Cloud of Unknowing, and as he read it, kind of a method of silent meditative prayer kind of seemed to jump off the pages as he read the book. So the practice itself has been around since the early 1970s. Now, the idea of sitting in silence with God has been around for thousands of years. That's not a new practice, obviously. But centering prayer is about a 50-year, little bit over 50-year practice. And what it is considered meditation, like forms of meditation, but it's also considered a way to open yourselves to the presence and actions of God within. So it's meditation and a way of deepening your relationship with God through a different way of praying, rather than what we think of prayer as verbal and we're talking to God and asking God questions or asking God for help or praying for people. It's different. We're sitting with God and we're letting God pray in us. So that's what makes it, I guess, different from other forms of meditation, is that it is meditation, but it's sitting with God and opening to the presence and actions of God within us during this time. And I think of it as reverse prayer. We're letting God pray in us during this time what God knows we need, whether it might be inner peace, inner calm, wisdom for tasks, nudges to get out of our comfort zone and try and do new things. So that's a little bit about how long centering prayer has been around and what it is and how it's different from just pure meditation. I'll pause there, and then I could also explain how you do it as well. But I'll pause there.
All right, thank you so much, Rich. So, what led you to begin practicing centering prayer every day back in 2014?
I guess at the time I was searching for something. I just felt like my prayer life lacked depth, lacked meaning. It just seemed maybe a little bit boring. And I thought there was more to this than there is, but I didn't know what that was. So I just began exploring and reading books. And I came in late 2013. I found a book on Amazon and I started reading the Kindle version called Healing the Divide, Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots by Amos Smith. And as I read this book, he talked about a silent meditative practice called centering prayer that he had been doing for actually about 20 years up until that point. So it immediately intrigued me, and I began trying this practice for myself. And then I began a back and forth email dialogue with him. And it just took. It was kind of the piece that was missing for me. It helped me go deeper in my prayer life, deeper in my relationship with God. And it just took, and it resonated with me, and I've been at it for well over 10 years at this point.
Okay, so how has silence transformed your relationship with God and with yourself?
I would say with God, it's kind of changed the way I perceive God. Like prior to that, I think I thought more of God as being up there looking down at me. Maybe God was happy with me. Maybe God wasn't happy with me. And then as I began practicing centering prayer, I began to realize that God is kind of everywhere. God is outside of me. God is within me, and the Spirit of God is within me, guiding me and partnering with me. And God is kind of holding my hand and walking with me and partnering with life. So my perception of God changed. God became close to me, within me, walking with me, as well as maybe even in front of me, kind of saying, "Let's go, Rich. Here's some things I want you to do. Trust me." So, and God became more of a loving presence, not a critical presence, and where I maybe thought I was doing something wrong, God became a very loving presence. And then, so that's how it transformed my relationship with God. And then with me, the more I sat in the silence of centering prayer, as I look back, a lot of fruits from the practice that God has prayed in me. I'm a much more calm person, or I can easily calm myself down when things are chaotic. I have more inner peace and calm, kind of more of an excitement for life and what will happen today. It's helped me get out of my comfort zone and try and do new things, such as like none of the things I'm doing now were even on the radar screen. And so it pushed and nudged me to create my website, to start doing one-on-one coaching, to write a book, to go on podcasts and share this practice with people. So it really transformed me as well.
All right, Rich, thank you so much. So let's talk about your book. So your book is titled Sitting with God. What does it mean to discover your true self through prayer?
Sure. So basically, well, and let me explain how you do the prayer because that'll help answer the question. So, with centering prayer, you sit comfortably with your eyes closed, and then interiorly you introduce the sacred word. So you're interiorly thinking it, you're not speaking it. So the word could be God, love, peace, Jesus, and that just signifies you're beginning your prayer time of sitting with God and opening to the presence and actions of God within. And then as you're sitting there, when you begin engaging your thoughts, and what I mean by that is if you begin thinking about what do I have to do later this day? What are the tasks I need to do? What are the errands I need to do? You realize you're no longer sitting with God, you're sitting with yourself and your own thoughts and plotting and planning. So you then interiorly reintroduce this sacred word to come back to the present moment and let go of these engaged thoughts. And you'd use your sacred word when needed to just keep returning to God in the present moment. And then, so really, what happens with centering prayer is you outside of the practice, you begin letting go of things so that you can hone in and focus on what are the things you should be doing during the day. So you might let go of your fears, your worries, your anxieties, your thoughts that I'm not a confident person, to I am confident, or I am the right person for this task and I can do this even though it's new. Because buried underneath all of these thoughts that you let go of is your true self. And it's the person God wants you to be and the actions God wants you to take. So you begin to discover who this person is through a practice such as this. And for me, I began to discover that I'm an author and I'm a coach who can help people, and I'm someone that can jump on podcasts. So centering prayer has helped me let go of thoughts that aren't true, and underneath all of these thoughts are the things and actions God wants me to be, which really is your true self, the person God wants you to be, the actions God wants you to take.
All right, thank you so much, Rich. So why do so many people struggle to sit quietly with God?
I would say, well, the first thing I would say is for people, the idea of sitting in silence, if it's just brand new to them, I would take baby steps. So don't feel like you have to do 20-minute sit or a 30-minute silent sit. Take baby steps. Do a couple minutes to 5 minutes because that'll be easier to do. So I think the idea of just sitting in silence is scary for people because they think it could feel like an eternity. And also they feel like, well, I should be busy. I should be doing things. And this isn't helping me be productive, when the reality is that because you sit in silence, the rest of your day seems to go that much better. And I've experienced that as well, that because I take a silent sit in the morning and then because I take a second sit, mid afternoon, I'm it helps me be better producer, and it helps me take better actions during the day. So I think that's another reason some people might not sit, is because they feel I should be busy and active, when the reality is you'll be better at being busy and active because you took the time to sit in silence. And then I would say a third reason some people won't sit in silence is because as they're sitting there in silence, thoughts come up that they don't want to think about. Maybe they had a traumatic experience in their past, or maybe there's things that are heavily bothering them, and they want to keep pushing them down instead of letting them come up and out of them. They'll they don't want to sit in silence because it can be scary for them. So those are kind of three reasons that I've seen why it is hard in some cases for people to practice centering prayer, or silent meditative practices.
Thank you so much, Rich. So, tell us some of the biggest misconceptions people have about contemplative prayer.
I would say some people think it's not prayer, when the reality is it is prayer. It's just a different way of praying and sitting and being with God. And you can even look at Jesus, in the New Testament, where Jesus took time to be with God, and he wasn't always talking. He was just sitting with God. And in the Bible, where Jesus fasted, he didn't and was he had to be silent and conserve his energy. So I would say probably the biggest misconception is that sitting with God is not prayer, when it really is. It's just a different way of relating to God. And as I said earlier, I think of it as a reverse prayer. It is prayer. We're just being quiet, letting go, and opening to God. And we're letting God pray in us at a much deeper level, and feed us and nourish us with what God knows we need. As I said, whether it's inner peace or calm, or wisdom for tasks that are upcoming, or nudges to get out of our comfort zone and try and do new things that God wants us to do.
Thank you so much, Rich. So, tell us, how can someone like me, myself, who has never practiced centering prayer, how can I get started?
I would say the best thing to do is, one, maybe make a commitment that for 30 days you're going to try it for 1 month. Make it the first thing you do in the morning before you do anything. So as you get up, make it the first thing you do. And even just try it for 5 minutes. That way it's easy, and it's not occupying a ton of your time. So commit to doing it for 30 days. Try it for 5 minutes each day. And then at the end of the 30-day period, kind of reevaluate, how did it go? Did this practice resonate with me? And if so, maybe even then start lengthening the amount of time you sit to 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And then eventually, over time, you might even add a second sit as well. But just start with baby steps of 5 minutes for 30 days, and see how it goes and see how it feels.
Thank you so much, Rich. So I believe for those who want to get started with centering prayer, they can take that and begin from there. So, what changes have you seen in lives of people you have coached through this practice? Like, what do you expect? What should I expect to like change in me when I start the centering prayer?
I would say the neat part about it is kind of the fruits of the practice are unique for each practitioner. So some people discover like who their true self is and what are things they should be doing, whether it's activating for certain causes that are important to them, or whether it's starting a website and just helping people and sharing their own ways a practice such as centering prayers help them. But I would say the fruits of the practice are unique for each practitioner. They begin creating more of a self-awareness of who they are, who is their true self, what are one or two things that they can be doing now that they either always knew they wanted to do or didn't realize they want to do. So they begin really discovering who their true self is, and what actions they can take on this person. And some people say they begin to just become more filled with an inner calm, an inner peace. They're better at listening to people. They're better at just sitting with life, and being more accepting of the ups and downs of life, or some of the things that I have experienced, as well as I hear from others.
Okay, thank you so much. So, How do you stay consistent with a daily practice of silence in a world full of distractions?
You just have to do it, even if you don't feel like doing it. That's okay, because if you think about it, that's just a thought. So it's just you just discipline yourself to show up and do your practice, even if you don't want to do the practice. That's okay. It's just a thought. Let go of it and sit with God. So, but you do have to discipline yourself, and that's why I love the idea of first thing in the morning and making it the first thing I do. Um, so it's really just discipline, show up, and then let go of the idea. I don't want to do it. That's okay. Show up anyhow. Same thing with people that they want to exercise, they want to go to the gym, they don't necessarily want to go. Well, just show up anyhow and exercise, and then you'll probably be glad you did.
All right. So, talking about your book, what is one message you hope readers will take away from sitting with God?
I would say that anybody can come to silence wherever they're at. You don't have to worth. And what I mean by that is whatever your belief in God is, just come where you're at and sit with God or whatever you want to call God. If you're not sure you believe in God or you're not sure what you believe, just come sit in the silence and see what happens. So I would just with my book, I would just encourage people to what I call take a daily dose of silence. Come as you are with wherever you're at in your beliefs, and just see what happens.
All right. So, what do you hope listeners will take away from this entire conversation?
I guess I would just hope that people would in our chaotic often world where the idea of I need to be doing, I would hope people would take from this that why don't I give it a shot, as we said earlier, why don't I decide just for 30 days I'm going to give this a shot, I'm going to make it the first thing I do in the morning, I'm going to do it for 5 minutes, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see how it changes me. I'm going to see how each day goes because I took a daily dose of silence. So that's what I would hope people would take from our conversation is if the idea of silence is daunting, if the idea of silence is a waste of their time and not productive, I would say I would just challenge them just to try it for 30 days for 5 minutes, first thing in the morning, and see what happens, see how it impacts the rest of your day.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rich. This has been a thrilling and a very, very exciting episode so far. Thank you for reminding us that sometimes this best transformation doesn't come from doing more, but from becoming still enough to hear God's voice. Your insights into centering prayer and the journey towards our true selves have been both encouraging and inspiring. It was a pleasure having you on Hidden Secrets in Books.
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And the last thing I'll say is, if for those that are listening and want to explore a little bit more, if they come over to my site, silenceteaches.com, I have a free, very short, easy to read ebook that they could read and learn a little bit more about centering prayer and then perhaps try it for themselves.
All right, thank you so much. I was going to ask you how they can connect with you. And those who want to get your book, how can they get your book?
The book, they can find it on my website. There's a page on my website, or they can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or most online bookstores. It's on, or simply come to silenceteaches.com and they'll see the book on the site, and that can take them to how to purchase it as well if that's something they're interested in.
Okay, once again, thank you so much for coming to my show. And to all my listeners, I really appreciate you guys. You guys are also the real MVP. Thank you for listening today and for taking out your time to be with us once again on this very special episode. And you all do have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.